But thank you all for joining us today for our webinar about employment support for neurodivergent people. The webinar will be recorded and available to watch afterwards. We will share details of how you can view it in due course. My name is Hannah and I work in the Specialist Social Prescribing Service for Autism. Diane Girling, who has her camera on, so you can see her there waving, manages the service as an experienced social prescriber in the mainstream service as well. Today's speakers have their cameras turned on. Thank you. We have Claire Farrow from the Job Centre. We have Andrew Turner from Employment Inclusion. And hopefully Andy Charlton from Centre Work will be popping in as well to talk to us. Joe O'Connor is also here to organise the tech side of things as Digital Communications Manager for DHI. Thanks, Joe. Before I hand over to each of our speakers, just a little about the Specialist Social Prescribing Service and what it hopes to achieve. The service was set up in April 2021 to offer social prescribing wellbeing support to people awaiting autism assessment with Bristol Autism Spectrum Service, who we'll refer to as BAS. Post-diagnostic referrals are also accepted from BAS and the Autism Social Care Team. I work alongside the mainstream social prescribing team of social prescribers as part of DHI, who work in most of the GP surgeries across BAMES. The social prescribers work holistically with patients in a non-medical way to improve well-being. Together with the individual, we can work to break down barriers and plan for their future. Specific areas that we look at can include the following. So we look at lifestyle, self-care, employment, hobbies, volunteering, we look at housing, we talk about money, friends and family, the social network, and also emotional well-being and mental health. Employment is the topic that comes up time and time again, a key factor in most people's lives. For neurodivergent people, employment can present a whole host of problems, and I spend a lot of time talking to people who need help with finding work, staying in work, talking to employers, and generally overcoming workplace issues. And employment support for autistic people is relevant nationally as well. This year, a new government review, the Buckland Review of Autism Employment, was launched, designed to boost the employment prospects of autistic people. Only 29% of autistic people are in work, compared to 50% of disabled people, and 80% of non-disabled people. The findings of the report are due to be presented later this year. For people like me, who are looking to make the most appropriate referrals, it can be challenging knowing exactly where to place an individual for the best support. The purpose of today's webinar is to shine a light on the kind of support that is available so that the most effective referrals can be made. So I'm pleased to welcome three speakers today. We have Claire from the Job Centre, Andrew Turner from Employment Inclusion, and hopefully Andy from Centre Work. I don't know if Andy's made it yet, but there will be a chance to ask questions after each speaker. If you prefer, you can leave comments in the chat and we can read these out. We appreciate that the employment support landscape may seem unfamiliar, so please do ask any questions, and it's important to say that no question's too silly, just ask. We're here to see if we can provide some answers. So we're going to start with a speaker from the Job Centre, as this is often the first place that people go to. We have Sarah and Claire with us today. And Claire, as a DEA, and I think that's Disability Employment Advisor, would you like to tell us more about what you do?
Yes, certainly. Yep. I will bring up a presentation which we have. So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully. Okay. So let me know when you can see the presentation. Hopefully it won't be too much longer. It's all been a bit slow today in the Job Centre.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not that one. Why has it come up with that one? Don't know why it's come up with that. Oh, wow, that's brought up the wrong thing. That's no good. Definitely clicked on the right link. Okay, lovely. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone can see that.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so Sarah, I don't know if you want to start or if you'd like me to carry on.
Yeah, my name is Sarah Barnett. I'm the Disability Employment Advisor Leader. So my role is to manage my Disability Employment Advisor team, which I've got 10 staff, and they of disability employment advisors, and they work throughout the job centres in Avon. So that covers Bath, Bedminster, Bishopsworth, Bristol Temple Street, Hawfield, Kingswood, Yate and Shirehampton. So it's across all different, we're working with Bristol City Council, Baines and also South Gloucestershire as well. So it is across the whole area. It's quite diverse. And I've got, a DEA that covers, Disability Employment Advisor, that covers all of the job centres, full and part-time, depending on resourcing. So it's a great job. I get to hear a lot about the customers that we're supporting, and in particular neurodiverse customers that we're doing a lot of diagnosed and undiagnosed customers, and really what we can do to support them into work. And we do utilise centre work that we're going to hear from later on. So we've already got a really good relationship with them, and we've been working quite closely with them in the particularly in the Bristol area. So that's been really helpful as a referral in to actually get that support. But yes, and we do a lot of work with partners and providers across Avon as well, which really help. It's the Disability Advisor Job Centre, Disability Advisor role is really to upskill the work coaches on health and disability and help support those customers into signpost them into provision or employment, depending on where they are on the health journey. So I'll hand that over to Claire, if that's okay.
Yeah. So obviously a bit of background. So Disability Employment Advisors have been around for many years. They were created after the war to support injured soldiers when they returned from the war. So the role, obviously the name's changed several times since then, but we've been around for that long, supporting people with health conditions or disabilities. Sarah said, so they are based in each job centre, or nearly every job centre within Avon. There's always someone covering the site. Our main role obviously is to support the work coaches for those people that are on universal credit benefit, ESA or JSA benefits. If they have maybe a complex health condition, disability, and they just need some extra support or advice from a disability employment advisor. So as Sarah said, what we do, so our main sort of role is to obviously a lot of knowledge about sharing information, whether it be to a customer directly or to a work coach or member staff in the office about health conditions, promoting the Disability Confidence Scheme, which I hope people have heard about. That's where employers can sign up to say they're disability confident, and about employing staff and retention of staff. Obviously promote the Access to Work service, which is for those people that may need some practical or mental health support within employment. We offer advice and support about health and disability, what local provision is around, as Sarah said, about using centre work, what training opportunities may be about for a customer that may need some to be retrained or upskilling, and local support groups in that area. So to support work coaches, we sort of run through a range of things, really. We can support them with a customer that may need to go on the health journey. So that's the work and capability assessment. So a customer starts that journey, first of all, by telling us that they have a health condition or disability and obtaining a fit note or Med3 from the GP. And then we sort of lead them through the process of the health journey. That we do have, obviously Universal Credit does use a journal messaging system, and this is sort of something new to customers to be able to contact a work coach. So that's quite a way of them sort of texting in or messaging in, and some of those can be quite difficult messages that we get, and there are threats of suicide and things like that. So we do support, as it says, a 6-point plan, which is supporting whether it's phoning the customer, emergency services, etc. We do obviously look at other training courses. If there's maybe a shortfall within what we think is running within the local area, we will go out and request provision. It can be something called a dynamic purchasing system. One we recently had was an organisation called Skills Max, and they were running a 12-week mental health provision, and it's just ongoing at the moment. But we've had some positive feedback, haven't we, Sarah, from it?
Yeah,
customers have found it really helpful. Especially with obviously long waits and things for like talking therapies at the moment. So we found this is quite a good programme. We will also obviously help work coaches to tailor any commitments. So a customer that makes a claim for universal credit or benefit is expected to be looking for full-time work and expected to job search for 35 hours a week. Obviously, this isn't practical for everybody, so we will support the work coach with tailoring their commitments. We also sort of give awareness overviews of different health conditions and training and things like that. And we also support if we think a customer may benefit from a different benefit, whether that's personal independent payments or carers allowance or something, we can support with those. So we work with lots of different other people, whether within the department or outside, but we have employer advisors. So the employer advisors will go out and find jobs for our customers, work with employers in the local area, put on jobs fairs, all those things. We have a third-party provision team, and they obviously help us or support us with all the provision that we run, whether through Job Centre, externally or internally. We have a work psychologist team within the sort of our area. So for any real complex cases, we can case conference with them, which is really vital to us. We work obviously with social prescribers and other disability charities, and obviously all our colleagues within within our department and so forth. We also sort of have links with people, vulnerable customer leads, that people may be working on PIP benefits and things like that, so we can liaise with them if we need to. So we did mention briefly about the Disability Confidence Scheme. So obviously is to promote disability, health conditions and disabilities to people, employers can sign up to different levels, so level 1, level 2 or level 3. There are lots of sort of level 1 committed employers out there, and it's a case of that they will offer sort of guaranteed job interviews as long as they meet the minimum criteria. They have the logo they can put onto their sort of websites and paperwork and things. So it's good. It's good for customers to be able to see that there are lots of employers out there that are disability confident. And on the gov.uk, there is a full list of people that or employers that they can go on to and have a look at what employers are local to them, which is really good. Okay, so I mean, this slide, we just kind of, what a week looks like to us, really, and it is very varied. Every day is very different, which is, I think, why I've probably been in the job for so long. That we can, each day is, can be anything, can be different, and obviously things drop into us all the time, probably very much like yourselves. So we can support customers with referrals to programs. So we do a lot of warm handovers, case conferences, and things like that with providers. Maybe having discussions with work psychologists, having case conferences. We do obviously help our employer advisors with any job retention, if that's anything that's needed, whether that's speaking to the person that's actually employed or supporting by speaking to the employer. We have gone out and done sort of retention cases with employers. I don't know if there's anything else down there particularly that I particularly haven't said, but it is a lot of time. We, sit with work coaches, what we call a 3-way meeting, and assist, maybe just listening in, see if we pick up anything. So obviously speaking to medical services, trying to get hold of GPs, to support customers. Anything else on there, Sarah, you think?
No, I think you covered quite a lot there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sort of internal and external support, really. I think that we're giving to the work coaches and directly to, directly or indirectly to the customers as well, which really does support them on their journey.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about disability lives is that we're not restricted on the people that we see. We can see people that are working, not receiving any benefits. We don't say that obviously we can see them for long periods of time or anything like that, but we can support people that they don't have to be on a benefit, which is slightly different to our work coaches, because obviously they focus on people that are receiving a benefit, primarily universal credit now. So that's slightly different with the DEAs, because we can see other people on non-benefits. Okay.
And the beauty about the DEA, I think, is whereas maybe work coaches are a little bit more limited to the time that they can be with the customers, or the little bit more flexibility now, the DEAs can really, spend a good amount of time with the customer, a good hour or so, really sort of getting to the bottom of what the issues are and their health condition and things, and then we'll book ongoing appointments as well until they've supported them into where they need to be. So I think that's a great flexibility that the work coaches, if they haven't necessarily got the time to do a bit more delving into the situation, the DA is available straight away not straight away, but can be booked in to see them straight away, to help them.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
That's so interesting. I think we will have some, if we can ask you some questions at the end, would that be all right? I can see that Rachel's popped up with a question in the chat, but if we can leave that till later, that would be great if we move on.
No problem.
So Andrew Turner's with us from Employment Inclusion. Be lovely if you could tell us more about employment inclusion. I know I've had some really positive referrals that have gone through so far, so it'd be great to hear more, Andrew, if that's okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I was struggling to come off mute for a second, man. I'm going to share my screen because I've got a little presentation that I can go through and talk about.
So, Andrew, you're very quiet.
Yeah, I'll probably have to lean down to my computer and shout at the microphone because I usually have to. That's fine, I can do that. Sorry, I'm struggling to get my slideshow to work. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the Employment Inclusion team, so we work in the Learning Disability and Autism services in Baines. We're part of those services run by HCRG. And we're a team of job coaches who are all experienced professionals. We've got a lot of training and experience in supporting people who have a learning disability and autism or autism. We also support people who have other needs, and I'll talk a little bit about eligibility in a minute. We're not a registered service, but we do have a manager and a deputy. We don't provide personal care or anything like that, so we don't act as PAs supporting people in work. That's a slightly different thing. We're linked to other services in the LD teams, so that means things like the day services, the community day services team, other services that basically can offer us support and offer individual support, and we act as a really good signpost a lot of the time for people who come into our sphere of involvement. And we've got a full team at the moment, which quite often results in people being very jealous within health and social care, so we're quite smug about that. We support people to retain paid or voluntary employment. We can also help people with a work search, and that is usually if other routes haven't proved successful or they're not suitable person. We talk a lot with the person and the employer to develop their relationship and understanding. So we really get involved at all levels of the person's employment, and we will go in. We're actively in the workplace with the person to resolve issues a lot of the time. Our job coaches don't tend to be in the office very much because they are out with the person and at the employers working with them on skills. We work to step back, so that means that our aim is to make ourselves unnecessary by the person becoming independent in their job role. So a natural involvement for us would be intensive involvement at the start, gradually stepping down, and then as the person becomes independent, we can step away, hopefully completely. But we have got the scope to become involved again for situational things. So quite often a person with autism might really struggle with changes in the workplace, like a change of management, a change to the systems of work, and then we can help around those things. We can get back involved and help around a specific period of time. We can be involved for any time period from a few weeks to ongoing, and some of the people we've been involved with for years we support. So eligibility, like I said, primarily we work with people who have a learning disability and or autism. However, we can also work with people who have other needs, for example, dyslexia, ADHD, mobility needs, sensory impairments. And if we can't support a person ourselves, we'll do our best to signpost to a service which can, because like I said, we've got a lot of experience and knowledge in the team, and we can usually find a route for a person if it isn't us directly. So where we work, obviously we're in Baines Forum. We will work with a person who has a job in Bath and North East Somerset, even if their residence is not in the area. If they're employed within Bath and North East Somerset, we can work with them. We'll also work to support people who live in Bath and North East Somerset who are employed slightly out of area. So if they're just over the border, that's not a problem. As long as it's reasonable for us to support, we will take it on, basically. So how we work, like I said, we are primarily in the workplace with the person. We work face to face. We don't do telephone job coaching. A lot of job coaching providers seem to do things like telephone job coaches, their primary way of working. We will do it if it's desired by the person. So if it's dictated by the person's needs and that's what they prefer, that's fine, but our preferred way of working is face to face with the person and with the employer. We can do hands-on or hands-off. Again, that's dictated by what the person needs, really. So hands-on would be us getting in and actually learning the job role with the person. So examples of that would be the assistant roles up at the RUH, where our job coaches know those roles really well, and they can teach a person how to work successfully up in the hospital. We've got honorary contract status with the RUH, so we can actually go in and work with people on the wards where we need to. Times to suit, so we're not a 9-to-5 service. The job coaches will go in whenever a person's working times are, when they need that job coaching. So they'll do evenings, weekends, things like that when the person needs it. We do workplace and task analysis, and that's the kind of technical bit of our role, I guess, and that applies when we've got more probably high functioning people on our caseload. So we've got some people who have got really quite in-depth roles, and we'll help them to look at those roles and look at systems of work that make the role sustainable for them. There might be things like how they organize their work or adaptations that are needed that we can look into and recommend for the person and their employer, and obviously making the employer aware of what are reasonable adjustments. In our view, that forms part of our role. So referring to us, so that can be by various different routes, but it always follows the principle that the person's given consent to the referral. So they can refer themselves, they can get referred by social care team, their employer, another professional or a medical professional. I'm imagining that really anybody who's in this meeting today would probably be able to make a referral to us if they needed to, subject to the agreement of the person. There's nothing barring anyone from making a referral to us. So we've got some success stories, what we do well, which is just a little bit more personal detail of what we do. So Miss L, RUH Bath Project Search graduate. So we supported the person through Project Search. They've been employed at RUH for several years. They love their job and the ward they work on loves them. So they travel to work independently. They've got a boyfriend they met through work, and they helped us by speaking about the service in a national NHS webinar. That person really doesn't need a lot of our support now. They've only needed stuff around things like Baines cutting the bus services, and then we had to replan their travel with them. So that's the kind of situational involvement where we have to get back involved with a person because something specific's happened. But yeah, she's amazing. Mr. H, so that's finding another way. So they had a kind of mental health crisis and they weren't coping on the program they were on. So we found them supported placements. We've got Amy Nelson, I think, in the meeting today, and she'll be aware of this person. So we found him supported placements, one of which was Bath City Farm. We found a couple of others as well, and we basically found a route for him because we're not devoted to people being in paid work. We're devoted to finding the right route for a person, and in his case, that's been voluntary. We've managed to get him stable in terms of his presentation, and we're supporting him to have sort of longer term voluntary occupational roles now, and he's in a really good place. So that's a great achievement for us. And then Mr. A, so he is a person who we're able to support to progress. So if we're working with a person, we can also help them to progress. We can help them identify what they're good at, what they want to do, what they want to learn, and we will help them with applying to go further in an organisation or to go to another organisation and move up in their career if that's what they want to do. So those are the kind of some really good examples of what we do. Funding routes. So obviously we are a service. We do have to be funded in some way. So typically for a person to access our service, the following routes will apply. So it would be access to work funding if a person is in work or they're having something like a work trial or work experience through us, we can get access to work funding for those. We can also have people funded through personal budgets, through the social care team. This would usually be where the person is having a work search supported through us, or they've got a voluntary role that they need support to maintain. So that would be a personal budget. And sometimes we'll do a spot purchase agreement with an employer. So for example, we've got a piece of work we're doing, supplying some work to the RUH, where they've got a person who's really complex, who they're trying to employ and find a role for. We can't claim it for access to work funding because they haven't got a role we can claim against and they haven't got a diagnosis. But we're happy to do that work with the RUH under a spot purchase agreement and try and support that person. What we're aiming for. So we're aiming to be joined up, and as a service, we're trying to find pathways for people through occupations. So that could be day services, it could be community enterprises, it could be paid work, voluntary roles, supported placements. We are not, like I said, focused on everyone's got to have a paid job. We're focused on we want to find the right route for a person and exist in a joined up offering of employment and occupation support. And we want to work with all the people in this meeting, really. We want to get to know you, get to know what you're about and how we can all help each other. I think that's it from me. Yeah, that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So in the first instance, it's a referral form, is that right?
It is a referral form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally neglected to say that bit.
Not at all. That's well, another little bit of info that we find useful. So yes, so we fill in the form and we email it over to you, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. There is a shared mailbox for the employment inclusion team. So it would usually be send it to that shared mailbox, but copy in myself and Rebecca Woods, it's me, the manager, and Becky, who's deputy manager.
And if there's a particular person in mind that we have to refer, would you welcome a conversation first to make sure it's an appropriate referral?
Yeah, that's very useful for us. So we're always happy to talk through cases. If you're kind of thinking, is this appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Or you just don't know the route for a person. Because of where we sit within these learning disability autism services, like I said, quite often we will know if it isn't us. So yeah, by all means, get in contact and have a chat if you're not sure.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any other questions at this stage for Andrew? I think if anything pops up, if anyone has a chance to think, just pop that down in the chat, and perhaps we'll ask you at the end, Andrew. But thanks again. I know from my point of view, the fact that you and your team will do home visits and will also speak sort of directly to the employer has been really, really valuable. Thank you for your time today.
Welcome.
And now I'd like to hand you over to Andy. So this is Andy Charlton from Centre Work. Andy, I was wondering if you could tell us more about what you do, but also sort of perhaps the remit of We Work for Everyone and how that sort of fits in the whole sort of umbrella.
Okay, so as mentioned, I work for Centre Work, which is not We Work for Everyone, but my role works on behalf of We Work for Everyone. Centre Work have some of the same funding as We Work for Everyone, so my role and the other stuff that they do is the same funding that We Work for Everyone is funded by. So it's ESF funded, and the funding's held by the local authority, I believe, in Bristol. So my role primarily has been to generate new referrals and build new referral partnerships with organisations across the west of England, with a view to signing more people up for the We Work for Everyone project or service. So the We Work for Everyone service is it's run by the council. My understanding is that there's a service with each local authority. So Baines, Bristol, South Gloss, North Somerset, they all have a team that work on this project, and it is working with people with a learning difficulty, learning disability, or autism, to support them on their journey to finding work. Now, to be eligible for the service, somebody can be self-diagnosed. So as Andrew was mentioning earlier, people with sort of dyslexia, dyspraxia. I mean, we've got ADHD is in there, ADD. If somebody self-identifies that could be something that applies to them, they would be eligible, as well as people who have a formal diagnosis. We work with people who are age 16 plus. So 16 is the lowest age. My understanding is there isn't really any upper age. People do continue to want to work potentially beyond state pension age, but the support is within the community. So there's no visits to people's homes. I've visited people within supported accommodation to sign them up, but that's it's not technically it's not in their front room. It's been in the communal staff lounge or whatever. And the support is aimed at helping people forwards on their journey. So also, although it is an employment focused service, that's not necessarily going to be the outcome for everybody. Some people may get to a point where they're more independent in their search for work. They may have built new skills, built their confidence, become more resilient through engaging with other provision. So they also have the was it DPS purchasing stuff that the job centre were maybe talking about earlier, but there's additional provision that's purchased that is around group activity, so building your confidence or building a particular new skill. The team will look to signpost to provision that is available within the local authority, the local area, looking at what things are going on, what workshops, what courses. People will be able to engage in one-to-one support as well, and the services can come and meet with people in places that are suitable to them. Not everybody, as was mentioned earlier around public transport. If you live somewhere where public transport makes accessing things a bit more difficult, then I believe the potential is there for someone to come and meet with you, a bit more of a compromise on things. So the provision is there until the end of this year. So that's when the funding runs out. It's funded by the European Social Fund. So that's why there's a cut-off. My understanding from a conversation with my manager yesterday is that I will be able to take referrals until about the 11th of August. The reason for that being that in between me meeting with someone, signing them up, and then them being contacted or allocated a worker is about 3 weeks. So even though the last time that I meet with someone for a sign up will be the 11th of August, they may not have somebody in place until into September to start working with. And if the service ends at the end of December, then you want for people to realistically have a fair chunk of support that will enable them to to be able to start moving forward.
So do you have a set number of sessions or a specific amount of time normally that you would work with an individual, Andy?
So I only meet with people once because my role is to complete the sign up. So there's been a couple of occasions where I've met somebody twice because it's required two meetings. So my particular role is to complete the sign up and go along and speak to other organisations. The team, the delivery team, I don't know what their average would be because everybody's journey is different. So some people just need a little bit of a push in the right direction and a better understanding of how to do things, and they may enter into paid employment fairly quickly. Other people may find one of the skills boot camps or some sort of provision through adult community learning or another provider that enables them to start moving in a slightly different direction, but that would then still have helped them on their route to employment. And other people may need a much longer period of support. As for I think given where we are at the stage of the project, with it being so close to the end, everybody who's signing up would probably be able to work through until the delivery team stops delivering. So it's my assumption that with the project ending in December, that would be, end of November-ish. But because I don't work within the delivery team, that's for me, it's kind of speculation because we're only in July now. But they would then be looking to, refer people onto alternate provision if there was nothing forthcoming from the council for the new year.
Okay. And Andy, so you work for Centre Work, but Rec Ready is another organisation that's
It is. So,
would you like to tell us a little bit about?
I can tell you a little bit about that. So Rec Ready is a service that Centre Work has been delivering since earlier this year. It's using the same funding as the We Work for Everyone service. The main difference is that they've split their delivery team in half. So they have two people within the team who are working one-to-one with participants, supporting them into work. And then you have the other half of the team are out there engaging directly with employers, finding employers who are willing to build roles around people to offer them sustainable, permanent paid employment. So the difference is you're sort of taking out of it the need to build new skills, the need to, go through the sort of pre-employment journey, which I think is it's good for some people. It's good to have different provision that offers different things for different people. My understanding is that currently Rec Ready are not taking any new referrals because they're at capacity for cases, and they're sort of trying to work through, you know, the more people that you have, the less flexibility you have to offer the support. But the team will be there with a participant for the first three shifts that they have. So it doesn't matter whether that shift is on an evening, whether it's on a weekend. You know, the individual would be supported to attend the shifts. The employer would receive support from the service as well. So it's looking at building a positive, lasting relationship with employers, as well as enabling participants to feel supported within the workplace. And it's been very successful. My understanding is that they've supported around 40 people into work this year. And I think the service has been running since about March. I didn't come on board until April. So my understanding is that it was around then, but it's been very successful in getting people into paid employment across Baines, North Somerset, Bristol and South Gloss.
And it's that principle of the employer sort of adapting around the individual rather than the individual having to jump through those hoops, such as building a CV, going through the sort of strain and stress of preparing for interviews, those sort of traditional things that don't come so easily. Well, actually, if we can put those to one side and, you know, concentrate on the job coming to the person. But
so not having to think about ticking a box that says you have a disability or a learning difficulty or needing reasonable adjustments, because all of that is a conversation that's being had with the employer at the time of the role being built, which takes away a lot of those sort of stresses and the anxiety. And it's ultimately employers are the people saying, yes, we want to do this. We are the employers that Send to Work have on their books are the employers who want to give opportunities to people, who want to find a different way of working, who are open to working with people and understanding that they will have to make some sort of changes to working practice in order to enable some different people to come into their workforce and enable their workforce to be more representative of the local community.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Do we have any questions, either for Andy or for any of the speakers today?
So I've picked up a few questions in the chat. So Rachel Jare asked what was the best way to link up, was asking Claire what's the best way to link up a person to a DEA. And Claire's responded that actually she's given her email address. And she could then send out a list of the DEA contact details. I was just wondering, Claire, whether it would be possible to provide us with that list, and then we could send that out to the participants.
Yeah, of course. I did spot the other question about the presentation. Yeah, and I'm happy for it to be shared. So what I'll do on the end of that, I will add on obviously the DEAs in Avon. I'm guessing you won't cover. Does anyone cover sort of Somerset or Gloucester area? Otherwise, I can just share sort of what we would say was Avon area.
So certainly we only cover Baines. So I'm not sure if anyone here does cover other areas. Perhaps if anyone does, they'd like to pop that in the chat. So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And also, are the other presenters, well, Andy Turner, are you happy to share your presentation as well so that we can share that? Is he still here?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm happy to share that, and I will add the referral form and contact information to it.
That's fantastic, thank you. Yes, because I think you said there were various emails that people needed to use, yours and the generic email box.
I have to tell people to use the generic one, but actually you can just use mine, it's fine.
Okay. Yes. So I guess Alfie's said that he's in Somerset. So Claire, if you could provide the information for Somerset as well, that would be very useful. So this has been recorded. So the recording will be available afterwards. So if you think you want to go back over some of this stuff, or you think would be useful for someone else to watch, then that will be available on the YouTube channel under the DHR. So, okay, got someone else saying Somerset and Wiltshire they're covering. So, okay. So just checking there. Something else coming.
Hi, Alfie. I recognise your name.
Something else coming from Michael Alton, saying he's a new community catalyst working in Baines to help people set up their own community enterprises or community groups based around health and being. Love to link up with the speakers. So yes, the information will be coming out, Michael, to all the participants. So that gives you people's contact details, and they're also being shared in this chat, which is obviously available at the end of the webinar as well. So, okay, Lorraine's asking if we can have the link or the name of the YouTube channel. Joe, are you able to help with that? Because I know you're the one going to be popping it on there.
Yeah, what I would do, I need to do a little bit of editing. Once it's uploaded to DHI's main YouTube account, I will email attendees here today with a link to that video if you want to go back and recap anything that was said. So you will get a link, but if you search Developing Health and Independence on YouTube, we should show up.
Okay, so yes, sorry, Joe, your mic was up. So that you said search YouTube Developing Health and Independence, and actually you will also send out a link to the participants of that, and I will distribute it to everyone who is invited as well, because various people have let me know that they're on holiday. Quite a lot of people on holiday this week. So quite a lot of people said they weren't able to come. So Lorraine, have you heard what I said? You were just saying you couldn't hear. So can someone just confirm that they've heard what I said? Oh, fantastic.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
Oh, here's Rachel with a question.
So considering two different scenarios, what is the best referral route for a person with learning disabilities getting support, for a person who's not in work and is looking for work or volunteering, and for a person who is in work? So if someone's got learning disabilities, which would be the best way for them to go to get support? Who would like to have a go at that one?
I mean, yeah, I can start. I mean, they're very welcome to obviously reach out to the job centre. It will be given to a disability employment advisor, because we could work with any customers like that. We would obviously carry out a bit of an assessment, and then most likely sign, after our discussions, it would be a case of then signing posting either to an external provider, or we may have a provision that we can refer them to within the job centre. But yeah, we can do that in the job centre. It's not a problem at all.
So I can probably speak a bit about that as well. We've got various people we work with who are in voluntary roles, not in paid roles, and we've got a voluntary work program as well to support people into voluntary work. It's called Many Hands. So we could bring a person onto that route. It would depend on whether we've got a funding route for them. So if we don't have a funding route for them, we'd probably do a short-term piece of work with them to support them into a voluntary role and get them set up, and then we'd have to step away. If we've got something like a personal budget that we can access for them, so if they're known to the social care teams and they have a personal budget that's available, we can get job coach funding through that, and then we can support them on an ongoing basis with the role. The second part of the question, person who is in work. So is that a person who is in work just needing support generally. And if it is, then we can support with that through access to work funding. If it's a person who is in work who's looking to take on additional volunteering, we can also support through access to work funding, because that would be part of their development in role, and we can use that access to work funding that we've got with them to further their career by adding a voluntary role to it and things like that. So that's within the scope of what we could do.
Okay, thank you very
Brilliant.
much. Can I just ask what access to work funding is? A very basic question.
Sure. So access to work funding is available for anybody who has a qualifying eligible need, basically. So that would be a learning disability, autism, sensory impairment, mobility impairments, all of those different kind of things will qualify for access to work funding, as well as dyslexia, ADHD, all of those will potentially be qualifying needs. We've got a couple of job coaches who are experts on access to work funding, and if you're not sure if a person would qualify, they would be able to advise on it. And I'm sure the guys from a job centre here as well,
Yeah.
they would probably be able to advise on that equally as well, if not better than us. But yeah, that's what access to work funding is, and it can be claimed for all kinds of different things that assist a person in their employment.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Any more questions? I think if you have your email addresses in the chat, then you can probably expect some questions afterwards, once everyone's had a chance to settle and think about all of the things that you've brought to us today. But Claire and Sarah, Andrew and Andy, thank you so much for sparing the time today to come and talk to us. I think it was valuable. And I think, like I say, I think you can expect some emails dropping through your inbox very soon.
And it was very interesting to hear from other people as well. So we've learned a lot as well from the meeting today. So thank you for inviting us.
And thanks to everybody for coming along.